and let us all do we can to build a better future.
And with that being said, I think it's only fair that we bring in our guest. But before we bring in our guest, I want to play this video. It's from Ron Placone. He's talking about the antitrust summer. So let's play this video first and inform all of you what is going on.
What's up, everybody? Ron Placone here, and I got everything I need for my antitrust summer. I got stuff for the grill, I got condiments, I got sodas, I got sunscreen. I really need that last one. You know, the one thing I don't have, I need Chuck Schumer to bring the bills to the floor. And you can help remind him. Go to AntiTrustSummer.com and sign the petition to let your elected representatives know that we want action taken on these 2 antitrust bills. Go to AntiTrustSummer.com now. We got the mustard. You bring the bills.
All right. Great stuff right there. So with that being said, I am happy to introduce one of our good friends of the show. He's been on the show numerous times. Comedian and commentator, Ron Placone. Welcome to Hard Lens Media. It's long overdue. When you come back to Chicago, man? Come on. What's going on?
Next year, probably. First of all, thanks for having me. Good to see you. It has been a minute. And yeah, I'm not going to be hitting the Midwest this year, but next year it is the top of the list domestically. So I look forward to seeing you then. Hopefully, I'll be able to pop in studio if you'll have me. See your guys' digs.
Yeah, no problem, man. You're always welcome to be here. So I think it's important that we discuss what is actually happening with the antitrust summer. So what got this started? What's going on? And what can people do to start getting actively involved?
Well, it's you had a great transition there because you're talking about, you know, what a joy it is to deal with YouTube. And man, I have no idea what you're talking about. YouTube is just a ball. There's not an algorithm that screws us over at all, or people don't get unsubscribed automatically for no reason at all. I don't know what you're talking about with that. But so there are 2 antitrust bills happening right now that are floating around in the Senate, and they are called OMA and ACOA. OMA stands for the Open Apps Market Act, and ACOA stands for American Innovations Choice Online Act. You don't need to memorize this. I haven't either. But what's important is what these 2 bills do. So OMA, what it does is it allows more choices within the App Store and gives a level playing field for alternative apps and independent apps. See, right now, the app stores are dominated by Google and Apple, and they charge exorbitant fees and commission rates for anything else in the App Store. They also dictate what software will and won't work on your device. This bill stops that practice, and it says, look, you got to give a level playing field here in the App Store, and the consumer themselves get to decide what software doesn't work on their device. ACOA, what this does, so, and this bleeds into what we face as content creators, by the way, Kit. You know, when you search something on Google or say Amazon's the real prime example here. What Amazon will do is they will show you the results based on their own products and services and favor their own products and services before anything else. And then what they do is they'll also feed you generic products and services that they made based on the data that they harvest from you. Here's an example that was used by Last Week Tonight, actually, the John Oliver show. They did a segment on this recently. It was a very good segment that broke it down. Say there is a bag that's popular and it's made by this design brand, and they put hours of design and research into this bag, and they make this bag, and a lot of people like it. And Amazon sees this. They see a lot of people buying this bag. Well, what Amazon's going to do is they're going to make a generic version of this bag. And then when you're searching for this bag, you're going to see Amazon's bag first. They're going to make sure their price is lower, and you're going to have to scroll way down to the bottom to see those other bags. So that's just one of the things that they do to favor their content, their products and services over everyone else. Google does the same thing. They will put their content. Say you just Google something random. Google will put their results above all else. They'll data scrape other websites and put their results with someone else's content. And what that does is it hurts other online businesses, because if they're not getting the web traffic, they're not going to be able to have their own sponsors and stuff like that. How that bleeds into what we face as content creators. As you know, like Google has a certain algorithm that buries independent media. That's another thing that they do to kind of be on the top of the heap. So these bills stop those practices, and it basically says, okay, you guys can't use your power to do this. You are the marketplace. You are the behemoth. Pretty much 90% of searches happen on Google. Almost all online commerce happens on Amazon. So they are the marketplace, and they have all these systems and algorithms in place that give them a grossly unfair advantage over everyone else. So these bills start breaking that up. And these are two bills that have overwhelming popularity because people across the political spectrum agree that these entities have entirely too much power. Now, big tech, they're spending a lot of money to try to fight these bills. They're making all kinds of bogus claims. Like, if you pass these bills, we won't be able to offer Prime or Google Maps anymore. That's a bunch of baloney. These bills don't stop them from offering anything they want. All these bills do is they stop them from the monopolistic practices that they're doing. And, the way this bleeds into our world specifically, Kit, you start breaking up these big tech juggernauts, and we could see a future of the internet where we're not as dependent on these platforms, where we don't need a YouTube to get our stuff out there. And, what do you want the future of the internet to be? Do you want it to be the kind of democratizing, everyone has a shot, everyone can put their stuff out there, and it's a level playing field, super information highway that it was supposed to be? That's what made the internet great in the first place? Or do you want it to be a monopolistic surveillance hellscape, which is what it's turning into? So, these two bills really start chipping away at that power. So go to antitrustsummer.com and please sign the petition.
All right. So here's the thing. I want there to be a day and age where, I don't know, YouTube goes back to being a meritocracy. There was one point in time it used to be like that.
Yeah.
That's something I want to see. And there was a point for Heartlands Media and a lot of our fellow colleagues in independent media as well, where things were kind of sort of good. Everything was growing. But then in this super fast rush of censorship, we're seeing the media, especially establishment media, getting jealous of the fact that people are no longer tuning in. Young millennials, Gen Z, they're not watching. Gen X, including all generations right now. Everyone's tuning away from the establishment media and what's the establishment media doing, as well as a two-party system. They're moving into our backyard. So while in everything that you're reading about what these two bills can do, challenging big tech, I got to push back and say, well, who at least is right now going to bat? Is there any kind of elected official, any kind of people that are right now stepping up saying, I agree with it, be it Democrat or Republican? I know they're both horrible options because both parties are neoliberal establishment hack frauds, and occasionally there will be one or two politicians that will actually do the right thing. I know I'm actually vomiting in my brain and actually think it's even saying that somebody doing the right thing and they're in office. But is there anyone right now that's at least standing in solidarity with the people or right now for the antitrust summer? Because this has to happen. But again, this is American politics.
Yeah, totally.
We're an oligarchy, not a democracy.
Absolutely. I mean, surprisingly enough, this actually has overwhelming support amidst Democrats and Republicans because, again, we don't all agree on all the solutions, but everybody across the political spectrum agrees that, these companies have entirely too much power. I mean, this was co-written by a Democrat and a Republican, so it was a quote-unquote bipartisan bill, which 90% of the time, bipartisanship means, hey, they've agreed on an awful idea. This is one of the few exceptions. This is actually a good piece of legislation that it will be a really, really, really huge thing for the future of the internet if this thing passes. Here's the big problem. There's definitely a lot of conflicts of interest here. It's up to Chuck Schumer to put this on the floor, to bring it to a vote. And Chuck Schumer promised he was going to do that. But we got to put the pressure on to make sure he does that because you know what? One of Chuck Schumer's daughters is a lobbyist for Amazon. And guess who's spending a lot of money pushing back against these bills? Amazon, Google. They don't want these bills, and they have a lot of money influencing our politics. We all know it, and there's some politicians that they've bought off. Sure, that's going to happen all the time. So we really got to rally and demand that they hold the vote on this bill and that people vote the way they promised so that this thing gets through. So go to antitrustsummer.com. Please sign the petition.
There's one thing, though, when it comes down to somebody like Chuck Schumer, he's a Democrat, and they're never going to follow through. Is there anyone else besides him, or is there any other kind of plans of leases or talk about like doing a live stream or like reaching out to more people or talking about doing a general, meetup or some kind of protest in Washington, D.C. or in front of these politicians' houses? Because that's the only reason or word will get out. Because sadly, the internet's going to suppress any kind of conversation talking about standing up against the establishment or trying to break up against big tech. There's always going to be something put in in front of anything that's going to try and do some kind of good. And while I do like both of these bills, I think what a lot of people want to know is what is the next step? What is the next action? And is there also like a time limit? Is there an expiration?
There's a huge time limit. Yeah. I mean, right now, like the concern is just winning and getting this on the floor, because if we don't get it on the floor, if we allow them to just sort of sleep on this, to just sort of push it off to the side, Congress is going to go on recess, which, you know, they deserve. They've worked very hard, but they're going to go on recess.
I don't think so, man.
But they're going to go on recess, and then after that, they're going to be in midterm mode, so they're going to be able to push this to the side. So it's up to us to not let them do that. And the only way we can do that is by screaming at the absolute top of our lungs and forcing them to do this, basically. Because, you know, there's a lot of support for this amidst the Senate and amidst the Congress. A lot of people that have promised, like, yeah, we're for this. Yeah, we got this. But, you know, if we don't hold them to account, if we don't force them to do it, then it's all for nothing.
Okay. Well, you know, and again, shout out to my audience right here, because we're right now bringing out the fact that you got a lot of billionaires who are controlling these lawmakers. Is there any real solid certainty even from the GOP? I know, a long shot here asking any kind of Republican lawmaker to do the right thing. But has there been any talk from that side? I mean, when it comes down to regular people, be they libertarians, Republicans, Democrats, socialists, Greens, I think the average citizen will agree, like, yes, break up big tech. They control monopoly. I'm tired of Amazon giving me their less than stellar products. I'm tired of having my data being taken away from me, so that you have these corporations trying to find out how they could sell more crap to me. Is there anyone on the other side of the political aisle, say for the Democrats, that are really authentic and being secure, or at least being consistent about supporting this antitrust summer?
Well, overall, there's sort of an even mix. I'm trying to look up who co-wrote the bill. Here, let me just straight up write it, because it was written by geesh. Here, hold on. Let me just Google who.
That's no problem.
I'm usually in Google, ironically enough, because I'm trying to see like who actually wrote the bill. But it was it's not coming up here. But to answer your question, like, yeah, there is support from both Democrats and Republicans. How much? Well, you're not going to know unless you force them to vote.
All right. Well, then you got to force the vote. You got to make it happen. But I've been told they're doing force to vote as violence. But even then, when it comes down to, at least with social media and content, because let's actually talk about how it actually impacts us. Now, Hardlens Media, just like everyone else, a lot of our colleagues, the algorithm is silencing and suppressing us. I think for a lot of our viewers, especially when it comes down to watching some of their favorite content on YouTube, they're either unsubscribed or they're not notified when said content creator, not just independent media, uploads new content, and they're not informed by it. Now, at least from your perspective, what have you seen in regards towards how corporate media has moved on to at least what is deemed our backyard and now controlling the whole narrative? Your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I just want to say real quick, I did look it up. Amy Klobuchar and Chuck Grassley were the two people who wrote this bill. So it's Amy Klobuchar, who actually does not have the best track record on digital rights, but this bill is actually good. And then Chuck Grassley, who is a Republican from Iowa. So, you know, you have an interesting cast of characters who wrote this bill. But, you know, I've read it. It's a good bill, and it's a really important bill. And, you know, you can compare it to back in the day when they broke up AT&T, which kind of in many ways sort of led to the internet as we know it today. Because, you know, AT&T, they pretty much had a monopoly on our phone service. They had a monopoly on local and long distance calls. They finally challenged it. They finally broke them up. And what ended up happening? Well, we got things like answering machines. We got things like modems, which led to eventually the World Wide Web. But to answer your question, I mean, yeah, corporate media, they'll use people's footage. They won't give any credit. They certainly won't pay for it. I mean, you've seen that happen time and time again. You know, as far as what they did on YouTube, I mean, look, YouTube suppressed independent media in favor of corporate media because they want people to buy subscriptions to YouTube TV. And who's a partner on YouTube TV? Well, all the corporate outlets. So what's the competition for corporate outlets? Well, independent ones. So, Really, it comes down to the evolution of the medium. A lot of people are turning away from cable news, one, because they're doing a horrific job, and two, because more and more people realize that there are choices.
Mhm. All right. Again, I knowing everything that we've covered here, at least on our show, I like the idea of getting people involved and at least trying to get something done in Washington, D.C. I think my concern is, and I know from my audience as well, a lot of people are just burnt out by electoral politics. A lot of people are just tired of being involved or having something to do with the Democratic Party, and when people use their message
Well,
here,
I would argue this isn't technically electoral politics. I mean, electoral politics involves electing somebody. This doesn't involve electing anybody. This is about getting a bill
use of
passed.
that. I mean, here's the thing. What I want to be clear on is, I think people are maybe tired of asking a politician to do something. They say they'll look into it or they give their word, and then nothing happens, which is something I've seen for my entire adulthood. You have seen it as well. They have seen it as well. Is there at least a backup plan in case this doesn't follow through? Is there some kind of other initiative of what can be done? Because people want to know what the next follow through will be. Is there going to be another plan for an infrastructure, another plan for some kind of pushback? Because when it comes down to stuff to really return the internet to a meritocracy, maybe there's a handful of elected leaders that will do it. But all of them, I have to be very clear here, and I think the audience and everyone else will agree, these politicians won't cross that Rubicon. They will never do something that will help a regular citizen. I mean, they're allowing us to be evicted from our homes, and inflation's still rising.
Well, I mean, I guess we'll see. I mean, they said the same thing about net neutrality when we had a big, campaign to get net neutrality back at the federal level. And, while that was not initially successful, we had a bunch of net neutrality bills passed at the state level. And here where I live in California, we have the strongest net neutrality protections in the country. And we're on the verge of getting it back federally. They eventually have to appoint that fifth FCC member that will give us a pro net neutrality FCC, and we're going to get it back. So, I share those sentiments. My enthusiasm for electoral politics, as I've defined it, is actually non-existent. I mean, except for at the local level. I mean, federally, I just have very, very, very little interest, if any. But, this is one of those things where these are some small wins that are attainable and that have huge impacts. Like, these are wins where it's like, they're not going to be so apparent that they have to deny us everything. They have to give us something here and there. And this is something that will have a huge impact on the future of the internet as we know it. It will have a huge, huge impact because it's like, we don't really know what the future could hold. But if you're going to stifle all alternative apps that could be out there, who knows what we could be capable of? We'll never know because Google and Amazon are going to keep their monopoly. Who's going to know what could be beyond YouTube? Well, if we let Google keep its stronghold on everything, we're never going to frickin' know. So these two antitrust bills are incredibly important. And we've seen this happen before. Again, I mean, we've seen this happen when it comes to came to the phone lines. We're going to see it happen when it comes to the internet. But if we just throw up our hands and say, well, screw it, we're not going to try for whatever reason, we're mad at this politician or that, well, then we're basically giving them a pass. We're basically saying, well, we're not even going to try to hold you to account because we just don't expect anything from you. That's letting them win. That's the worst thing we could do, to not sign this petition, to not show up, to not force them to deliver on what they promise. That's the worst thing we can do, because at the end of the day, a politician is a tool in every sense of the word. They are a tool, and they are one thing for you. They are a vote. And if they vote the way you want them to, great. If they don't, well, then you got to just try to do everything you can to get rid of them. So, but to not try to hold them to account on two bills that are very good bills that have strong bipartisan support amidst politicians and people, to me, that sounds incredibly self-defeatist.
Okay. Well, then if anything, we can look at something at the state level then. So I'm very interested again. So we got something here on Rockfin. Let's go ahead and acknowledge that. It's a question from our viewing audience. Let's go ahead and pull that up. Roger Meadows tipped $2. He said, Ron Placone was up. Seeing how the banks got away with not being broken up in 2008, are now flying under the radar while big tech takes heat. This bill seems to only target a specific industry, yet seems to let other oligopolies, such as Wall Street, Big Pharma, ISSPs, and other big industries off the hook. Is there a way to apply this to those other industries as well?
That's a great question. I mean, yeah, like this bill specifically does deal with big tech. This does deal with, stuff that's happening online. As far as the big banks and stuff like that, I think that's a different bill for a different day. I don't think you're going to get everything in one bill, but you got to start somewhere.
Okay. All right. That's fair enough. So then as a final note for this, where can our viewers and subscribers learn more about the Antitrust Summer? Where can they go ahead and sign up so they can at least participate if they choose to? And also, do you have anything else you wish to promote, especially since right now summer is happening and everyone's out and about?
Yeah, you can go to antitrustsummer.com. You can sign the petition. It takes 2 minutes to do, and it lets all of your elected representatives know that you are demanding action on this. And again, we have a very, very small window. If we do not get this on the floor when it was promised the week of June 20th. We got to hold them to account to keep that promise. If we lose this one, it's probably going to fall by the wayside. So antitrustsummer.com. And as far as the land of Ron, I'm going to be in Iceland at the end of the month for the Reykjavik Fringe Festival. I don't know if you have any Reykjavik listeners, but if you do, go to ronplacone.com and come hang out at the Fringe. My shows are on June 28th and June 30th. And then I'll be in the Northwest at the end of July 28th, Portland, Oregon, July 29th, Seattle, Washington, July 30th, Vancouver, British Columbia. And you can get tickets at ronplacone.com. That'll be myself and Graham Elwood.
I got to push back. Hey, first of all, you're not coming to Chicago, number one.
I know, man. I'm sorry.
Chicago, and number three.
I can't. How can I? I have to I have to let you have that one, man. I know I'm not coming to Chicago, and I'm not happy about it either.
Yeah, I know, but still, come on, man. Like this is the best city. You got the best food, the best pizza. This is not. In many ways, that's violence.
No, you pitting pizzas against each other is violence, Kit. Why do you have to go that route? Why can't you just love them all?
No, I'm sorry. I choose violence every single day when it comes down to the 4 styles of pizza that we got here. See, everyone thinks deep dish, but we only got.
No, I know. I got you, man. I mean, hey, I'm a Midwesterner too, and I love I feel like where I'm from in Pittsburgh, it's sort of like a marriage of all of them, and I love it. But yeah, man. I mean, to kind of give a more depthful answer to that question, yeah, this year I was mostly hanging out by the coast so I could do some stuff up in Canada. So next year, I want to kind of prioritize the Midwest, and it'll probably be in the spring or summer. No offense, I'm not a fan of y'all's winters, but yeah, it'll probably be then.
It just makes you stronger. That's all. You just gotta deal with the winter because you're gonna have some really good summer. So there you go.
Man, I've been in Chicago in the winter, dude. That wind cuts through your freaking bones. That is not messing around.
We're still here, still standing strong though. So you got your comedy tour that's taking place. Also, Antitrust Summer. So again, for our viewers, I want to get serious one more time though.
AntitrustSummer.com. AntitrustSummer.com. Yeah.
When are the bills going to expire? Because again, let's face it, if we can't get it at the federal level, maybe we can get something at the state level and work on that for individual states to get it done. If it can't be done federal level, state level. So when will it expire?
There's no actual expiration. The thing is, if they don't vote on it before the recess, they're just going to try to we're focused on the midterms now, where we're probably, Democrats are probably going to lose brutally. So we got to make sure they do it now. I mean, it's one of those things. It's like, yeah, there's no expiration, but let's be real. If we don't make them keep this promise, then we're kind of back to the drawing board because they're going to just try to blow it off. I mean, yeah, we'll probably get another shot, but let's not let it come down to that. Let's make them keep this promise now and go to antitrustsummer.com to do that.
Okay, so to everyone, that petition is available and they can find it on your social media. We got something on Rockfin again from one of our viewing audience. Roger Meadows tipped $2. Does Senator Kay Gilly also support this as well? Ron, the deputy leader of the New York State Senate, Guerras authored an antitrust bill. Cuomo passed it into law last year. I'll get a hold of his office to see if he can contact Chucky Boy Schumer. Also, I know people in grassroots movement who who know Chuck personally. I will show them this video interview. Kit, package this into a clip quick so I can send this out to them. Don't worry, this interview will be clipped and available on Hard Lens Media tomorrow at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. So there you go. Ron, you could share this interview as well. We also got another Rockfin Super Chat as well. Again, and you can answer those, the first one and the second one as well. Let me go ahead and get this one. Dominic says, these bills seem to be against the biggest corporate monopolies that pay our politicians to protect their dedicated business interests. The only way this legislation could pass will require our voters to have a direct voice in political decisions. It's just another reason why we need to be the leaders of our politicians, not their followers. IndependentVoterParty.org.
Oh, I'm all for. I mean, I wish we lived in a people's legislature yesterday. I mean, I'm the biggest proponent of that. But I mean, unfortunately, we don't. I wish we did. But in the meantime, I'm going to try to fight as hard as I can with the tools that we do have available.
All right. So, again, to Roger Meadows' point, by the way, to everyone that's watching, if you're not following Roger Meadows, he has his finger on the pulse of what's happening with New York State. He's been a great voice for worker co-ops, and on top of that, all working collaboration with all the activist groups in New York State, especially for the New York State Healthcare Act, because our campaign for New York healthcare. He's been doing some phenomenal work. So, Ron, if you're not following Roger Meadows, I suggest you do so as well.
I see Roger's around, and yeah, thanks for the input, and please, please send this over to Chuck Schumer. He promised to vote the week of June 20th.
Okay. Well,
keep that promise, Chuck.
All right, Chucky boy, got to make it happen, live and direct always. So, again, Ron Placone, thank you so much for joining us here at Hard Lens Media. Again, if you're not following me on the social media, please do so. Check out his comedy shows and also check out the AntiTrust. Ron, you did disappoint me. No Chicago visit, and then also trying to detract the true scientific fact that Chicago-style pizza is the best. It is scientifically proven. So I'll give you the final word, right? But I mean, this is a scientific fact, buddy.
Kit, here's what I want, man. I can't. I want you to kind of back that up. When I come to Chicago, you take me, and you get one place, man, but you got to take me to the frickin' bee's knees where you're like, this is it. This is it, buddy. If you've had better pie than this, I don't know what to tell you.
Done deal.
And all right deal. Then, man.
Done deal.
I mean, I'll give you a chance to show your work, my friend.
Yeah, there we go.
And you're buying.
Okay. It'll be a chance to show you all the good stuff. So there you go. That's how it's going to happen. So there we go. All right. So we'll make that happen.
You don't have to buy, but we will go for pizza, man. I look forward to that.
All right. There we go. All right. So thank you again so much for joining us. I want to thank our viewing audience for joining us as well. Ron Placone, thank you so much for being our guest here.
All right, man. Be well. Peace.